Hey everyone, I'm Brielle from Brenner Beauty, and I am here today to show you a quick and easy 10-minute makeup look that you can wear pretty much anywhere, and you can do really easy even if you're super busy. I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to do this in the order that I would do it in the morning, and so you'll be able to see what steps I take from start to finish. So now we're going to start with foundation first, but I'm going to go ahead and take off my makeup so I can show you from scratch. Favorite thing about makeup is that it can pretty much cover anything and still look natural. And I know a lot of my clients ask, how do I make my foundation sit properly and not look too cakey? And I'm going to show you how to do that. I know you've probably heard of CC creams and BB creams, also tinted moisturizers. Those are all going to have a sheer to medium coverage, which means they're great for people that don't have a lot of the scarring that I have, or they have healthy skin and they don't want a ton of coverage, or even if you do have the scarring that I have, but you don't mind it showing through your foundation a little bit, you can opt for one of those with a sheer to medium coverage. The next coverage going forward will be medium to full coverage, and those are going to be more like what I use. And I use the NARS Sheer Glow Foundation. I love it. I've used it forever, and I keep going back to it no matter what I use. So as far as foundations go, if you have really great skin, if you don't have a ton of scarring, you can definitely use something on the more sheer end, like a tinted moisturizer, a CC cream, a BB cream. All of those run in the sheer to medium coverage. So it's going to have a thinner texture. It'll have a tint to it, but it won't cover like a medium to full coverage foundation. I use a medium to full coverage foundation because I need more coverage on my skin to cover up my scarring. So I tend toward the NARS Sheer Glow. I love this one just because there's a whole range of skin tones that they have, from super light to super deep. And also it goes on, it looks like skin. It doesn't have that cakey look, but it has a ton of coverage. So I would even use this if I had great skin. It's just all about preference. Foundation application. People are different in what they like to use. You can totally use your hands. If you do use your hands, you want to focus on these two fingers. It's your middle and your ring finger, and those will be your blending fingers throughout this process. So you would use them to blend in small motions like this, rather than your pointer, obviously rather than your pinky, and we never really use our thumb. So we're going to use these two blending fingers to blend out our liquid foundation, if you prefer. There are a bunch of different foundation brushes that you can use. Brush, so basically it is for laying down product in a heavier way. Oftentimes people will struggle with having streaky lines when they use one like this. And so they've started to create a lot more brushes that are in this kind of more thick, dense, and flat, kind of like the original Kabuki with Bare Minerals. Same kind of concept. You lay down and stipple, what we call stipple the product on, but you can also use this in a blending motion. If you really want to get crazy, you can lay your product down with this, and then you can blend it out with this, but I just like one brush. And this one's from Huda Beauty. It's got two sides to it. This is really, really great for getting in here. And also people use this to do cream contouring as well, and we will leave that out, and that'll be another video. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a tiny bit of product with my brush. I'm really just going to use what's around the top of this container to start. And I am going to go ahead and stipple on my product. And as you can see, a lot of my scarring is already going away. I go over my eyelid as well. And I leave, as you notice, I leave my concealer for after my foundation. Sounds weird, but I feel like it's a lot better because you're going to use a lot less than you think. Once your foundation is done, you are able to see what really needs to be concealed, rather the other way around. I forgot to mention, it's super important how you prep your skin before you even put your foundation down. So if you don't have a great moisturizer, you definitely want to get one that's going to work for your skin. You can also look for serums that have hyaluronic acid in them, and that will help to kind of bring a lot of hydration and glow to your skin. So when you put your foundation on, you're starting on a moisturized canvas, and it will help your foundation sit better on your skin and look so much more natural. So next up is concealer, and I'm going to apply it to these specific areas. This one is by Terry. It's a really great cream concealer, but you can also use a liquid concealer. There are a few, again, just like foundations, that are in different coverages, but most of the time they're going to be more medium to full coverage because of what they're intended for, which is to cover dark circles or acne scarring or anything that you would want to conceal underneath or on top of your foundation. And I'm going to apply it in these specific areas. In my tear duct, that gets really dark, and then under my eye. Again, we're doing this on top of foundation, right? So we got those areas here. Around the nose is another area that gets super red. My nose, my actual bridge of my nose, even if I put foundation on, it's red. And then I'll go through and I'll just find any of my blemishes that I feel like I want to get rid of so that they don't show. And occasionally I'll even do this center part of my forehead to brighten it up a little bit, or these inner parts of my cheek. And then we're going to blend that out. You can either use your fingers, again, your blending fingers, and you can get here if you have a little bit longer nails, you won't be able to get in this tear duct area, so you might want to use a brush. The one thing I like about using a brush over fingers is that a brush will probably take off a lot less than your hands. Your hands have your body heat, the pressure you can't really control because it's hard to kind of determine your natural pressure and how much foundation or concealer you're actually wiping off instead of putting on. Concealer brushes are flat, kind of like this one. This one's small. There are definitely larger ones, about double this size, and it's really up to you about your preference on what size brush you would like to use. Brushes are intended to be used on their side in order to tap in your concealer where you want it and kind of add that layer that you can build upon if you need more. So I'm going to do that around the areas I applied it in. Once you're done, if you feel like certain areas need more than what you had, you can go ahead and apply another layer of concealer, pat that in, or wait to the very end once your makeup is done and just kind of get any of those areas you feel that are still dark or that you can see through your foundation. I'm sure you've experienced, just like me, certain foundations can tend to sit in fine lines or forehead area. If you're dealing with that issue with foundation, then what I recommend is that your foundation or your skin might need to be more moisturized. The other option is that your foundation might be too full coverage or might be too matte in nature. And so what you would want to do is find a foundation that kind of says that it looks like skin, a skin finish, slightly dewy. A lot of people are afraid of those words, but you shouldn't be. We want the skin to have a little bit of a natural glow to it, and those foundations typically are more moisturizing and won't sit in lines nearly as much, especially if your skin is moisturized. So next up is bronzer, and don't be afraid, we're not talking like a full face of bronzer. We're talking about adding some dimension and color to your skin by adding a very matte, not shimmery bronzer. So you want to go for something, this is the Laura Mercier. It's in about a medium to dark tone because I'm neutral to medium skin toned. If you're really fair skin, you want to go for the lightest possible matte bronzer that your brand would offer. Or if you're in the deeper tones, obviously you can move up into that deep, more warm undertoned bronzer. So I'm going to take a brush about this size. It would be considered a little bit of a powder or blush brush. You can also use it, obviously we're going to use it for bronzer. I'm going to take my brush and get some bronzer on the top of it. And where I'm going to go, and we're not doing really contouring, but we're using some of the same concepts. So I'm going to mark my cheekbone, and I'm going to start by my ear. I'm going to blend my bronzer in backward circles, back toward my ear. Now you want to be careful not to bring your bronzer too far forward here because you don't want to close this area of the face down. You want to keep that nice and open. I'll go through, I'll get a little bit more. Again, I'm blending it back into my ear and down my cheekbone, all while doing circles backwards towards my ear. I'm doing just a few layers, nothing too crazy. You want to layer it up so that you don't add too much or too little. If you feel like you have too much down here, go ahead and wipe your brush off a little bit and then go ahead and re-blend that back. All right, so now we're going to talk blushes. They are not entirely necessary, but I think they add something to the look. You can definitely get away as far as a natural makeup look goes with just this foundation and bronzer. I think it looks finished enough once we do some eyes and a quick lip. But if you do want to up your game and add some blush, I recommend it. I think it gives you color. If you are fair to medium skin tone, you can usually get away with something in the dusty rose category or pinks and roses. I'll show you something that's considered more warm. So when you hear that, you're thinking more of these really deep peach colors. Those are going to be better on medium to deeper skin tones. So that's an easy way. I'll show you a swatch on my hand what this one looks like. Okay, here is a swatch of the NARS blush that I just showed you, and it's way more peachy than this guy here, which is more of this like dustier rose. So do you see the difference? This one is better for fair to medium skin tones. This one is better for medium to darker skin tones. And so that'll give you a little bit of an idea on how to search for a blush color that will work for you. So I'm going to use the same brush I used for my bronzer, and I'm going to use this for my blush as well. So I'm going to wipe it off on a towel just to get that excess bronzer off. And then I'm going to dip it into my blush. And I'm going to apply it to the apple of my cheek and back just about halfway. So I don't want to get it too close to my nose right here. I want to still leave that area open. So I'm going to mark the apple of my cheek, and I'm going to blend this just back about halfway, keeping the concentration of the color on the apple of the cheek. Back like that. Again, apple of the cheek, back about 3/4 of the way. You're just getting a little bit of color on there since you already have your bronzer that's adding dimension. And then you can just use a little bit of the residual product up here on the temples, not too much. You don't want to re-dip your brush into the pan or else you'll have really rosy forehead. But you can use the excess up here, maybe a little on your nose, and there you go, you've got your blush. Now that we've done foundation and cheeks, it's time to move on to eyes. I'm going to show you just a really natural and easy look. I'm going to show you some blending techniques that you can use for any combo of colors. This will just be a natural neutral. I can wear this to the grocery store look or out on a date if you would like. One of the most important things in regards to a good eyeshadow application is using a proper eyeshadow primer. When you put that on, it's intended for the color payoff or the shadow's pigment to show up like it does inside the eyeshadow pan. So oftentimes you'll use an eyeshadow, you'll feel like it doesn't look the same on your eye as it does in the eyeshadow container. And so using a primer will help it to look like it does in real life. Another important reason to use an eyeshadow primer is it will prevent your eyeshadow from coming off during the day. It will help it to stay looking the same and also prevent it from creasing in your eyelid area. All right, so let's get started with eyes, but I want to show you first two of my favorite palettes that I think are good for most people. This is the Tartelette Amazonian Clay Matte Palette, and it's great for natural looks because all of the shades don't contain any shimmer. We've got a bunch of neutrals that go all the way into these deep, dark browns and blacks. This is good for both warm and cool skin. I love it and I use it all the time, especially on my brides. So I'm going to show you a look with this palette. And this is my other favorite Tarte palette. It is the Tartelette Toasted Eyeshadow Palette, and it is full of really beautiful shimmer shades that really range from light all the way to medium dark. So you've got your light colors over here, shimmer, you've got a few matte peaches, you've got some golds, and you've got some kind of terracotta-y reds and some browns. So this is a great palette too. Both of these palettes together, you pretty much have every shadow you need for both a natural and a smoky look. After we have applied all of our eyeshadow primer all over the lid here, you're going to go ahead and take a brush that looks like this. So it's flat, but it's small, and it's about the size of most lower lids. And I'm going to take that and put it into one of the lighter shades over here on the Bloom Matte Palette. Very neutral. I'm going to get real close to the camera. And you're just going to apply that all over your lower lid, right below the crease. I'm going to go back in, get some more. So I'm tapping that on to my lower lid, running it back and forth just a little. Then I'll go ahead and do it on the other side. Pat that on. And then we'll move on to the crease. For the crease, we're going to use a blending brush. Now this is different because it's domed at the top and it's way looser than the eyelid brush that we just used. So this is better for blending. The more movement in a brush, the better it is to blend product out rather than pack it on like we were using with this flat brush for the lid. So for our crease, we're gonna use this taupe shade here in the Bloom palette. We're gonna use that with our blending brush. I'm gonna tap a little bit of it in, and then I am gonna go right from this outside corner into this inner corner, but I'm gonna start by pressing that brush into my crease. I'll be able to feel the top of my eye, and I'm just gonna do these light windshield wiper motions back and forth. I'm gonna go ahead and dip it in again and repeat that. So I'm gonna start here at the end, and I'm gonna do windshield wiper motions in. I don't wanna go all the way into my tear duct. I wanna keep it kind of clean over there. And I'm not going on to the bottom of my lid or above my crease. I'm keeping it very much just in my crease here. You can also use circular blending motions. So that would be little tiny baby circles, and mix that with the windshield wiper back and forth. Now, when you get to the ends, you want to blend it out just a little bit. So once you have applied that to one eye, you want to take your brush and wipe it off on a towel, and then a clean brush, you just kind of want to blend the edges a little bit because you don't want anything to look like a harsh line. If you feel like you need more, you can go through and do more, or you can even use a darker color in the lineup to add a little bit more depth in that crease. Eyeliner is hard for most people. Don't get discouraged. If you want to learn how to do it, I'm going to show you some easy techniques, but you'll probably have to practice it. If you want to use a pencil liner, I recommend getting one that says waterproof or smudge proof. The only thing to consider is while they last longer, they set a lot quicker than the kohl pencils that you sharpen, kind of like the original eyeliner pencils that we're all used to using. These waterproof pencils have to set faster, anywhere from about 30 seconds to a minute and a half. And so you really want to get that product down and blended before that time frame so you're not stuck trying to blend something that's really difficult. I usually recommend eyeliner in something like an espresso brown or a really dark charcoal gray, depending if you're more fair or cool toned. But a lot of people are afraid to use black, and I understand why. It can be harsh and difficult to blend and make look natural. So if we're trying for this natural look, I really recommend something in this espresso brown family, nearly brown black. Again, I'm going to get real close and I'm going to show you guys how I would go about this. So what I would do is first you want to find somewhere to stabilize your arm. Right now I have a table. So I'm going to stabilize my arm, but then I'm also going to stabilize my hand on my face, right? Then I'm going to turn, see my pinky? Then I'm going to turn my eyeliner up rather than applying it like this, toward my eye, almost directly on my eye. That's going to give me a more precise application, and I'm aiming to go right into my lash line. So aim for your lash line. I'm going in short strokes here, pressing it into my lash line. And I'm going to go all the way until my lashes stop at the front of my eye. You can see, even I do this pretty much every day on clients and on myself, but if you can see right here, I got a little bit above the line because it starts to get harder as you go in. I'm going to show you how to straighten that line. And also, brush to have is a really small eyeliner brush like this. And you're going to go ahead and take that and you're going to use it with no product on it just to go over your line. This is going to help move around the wax a little bit, warm it up, and you're going to get rid of those jagged edges. Once you have your eyeliner on, as you can see, the difference between my two eyes is that this one looks a lot more natural, but this one pops a lot more. Because of the natural eyeshadow look we have, you can still get away with a little bit of pencil liner here, and it really just adds kind of a more finished effect. But definitely, just like the blush, you can skip it and just do the eyeshadow and some mascara and run out the door. But I wanted to show you how to properly put on eyeliner to help you so that you aren't as frustrated as you probably are in the mornings. But this one. Use your eyeliner brush and add a little bit of a chocolate espresso brown on top of it to lock in the color. So sometimes I like to do that too because it will help your eyeliner stay a lot more. You also want to bring it out on the ends when you're blending it out, just so that it's not stopping hard at the end of your eye. It really shuts your eye down and makes it look small. So to make it look a little more natural, you just want to bring it out, not like a wing liner. You just want to blend it out a little bit past your eye, just so that it doesn't stop. And then, of course, we do a bunch of mascara because a bunch of mascara is better than a little bit of mascara. Don't be afraid to use black, even if you are super fair. I think it's way more flattering. Brown just doesn't stand up, especially if you're wearing it on its own and you're not wearing much on the eye. Go ahead and go for the black. All right, so we are nearly done. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me. I hope you're learning a lot. As you know, the last thing left would be lips. And so I like to keep it super natural. I also like to keep it not too glossy unless that's your preference, but for a super natural kind of no makeup look, it's easy to do something like a Burt's Bees tinted chapstick, a lip balm, something that's semi-sheer but with a little bit of color is super nice. So I really like these lip glosses from Lorac. They're awesome and they come in tons of different shades. They are nicely pigmented without being sticky, which I like. We've got this first one. It is kind of similar to that blush I showed you earlier. Really good for my medium to deeper toned girls. It's very warm. Then we've got the middle one that you can barely see. But it is a peach tone. It is this guy right here. Again, really good for most skin tones, to be honest. And then the end one is a dusty rose, like the blush I had used earlier. So again, good for my fair to medium girls, cool undertone. So I am going to probably choose the dusty rose and put that on. Super nice. You can throw it in your purse and it's easy to apply. You don't have to worry about like if it looks crazy. It's not red lipstick. So this kind of completes the look. So that is the end of our look. I am so happy that you spent this time with me. It means so much. Again, to recap, this is supposed to be a 5 to 10 minute makeup look, but obviously we took a lot more time here today because we wanted to go through all of the steps. This will definitely take practice, but you can always start by just doing your foundation, your bronzer, some light mascara, or extra mascara, and a lip gloss, and then work your way up to adding your cheek color, practicing your eyeshadow application, and then deepening that with darker colors and shimmers. So as you play with the blending skills, you'll get better and more confident, and then you can add the eyeliner and go for it. Thank you guys again for sticking with me, and I hope you learned a lot.